What is a fun fact that is mildly disturbing? There was a series of movies during the 1980s called the Guinea Pig films that were so gory that the director of the movies was actually investigated by the cops and had to show how he did the effects. Very similar with Cannibal Holocaust, the actors had to testify they were still alive. The story goes that it was Charlie Sheen who went to police. "I've seen The Devil's Experiment and Flower of Flesh and Blood. I think this is the film in question. And while they are really graphic, they had way too much in the way of production value for me to ever think it was for real snuff." Mother Sicilian's amphibian feed their babies with their own skin. Their babies have specialized, temporary teeth that they use to peel off layers of their mother's skin. The skin grows back and the young feed some more, for up to 3 months. Bunnies actually have the ability to scream, but they will only scream if they feel they are about to die. Not necessarily. My roommate's old bunny would scream to get his attention. A horrible blood-curdling scream. But he learned that when he made that sound, my roommate would come running to check on him. When I first got my bunny, she screamed in the middle of the night and woke up the whole family. None of us could figure out who had screamed, but we were all convinced someone was injured. She screamed again and we all thought someone had broken into the house or something because it was so human. She never did it again, and thank the Lord for that, because it was terrifying. Dolphins use dead fish as pocket pussies. Okay, what the fuck? Exactly. If you had asked me at any point in my life up until about 30 seconds ago if I was ever going to see a dolphin fuck a dead fish, I would have assured you that no. I would never see that, and what kind of fucked up person would even think of something like that? Now, well, let's just say I've lost a little of what was left of my innocence. Snails can be both male and female before mating. They have spike protrusions and stab at each other, and whoever gets stabbed the deepest carries the kids. It's called penis jousting. If you win it big in the lottery, you have a higher chance of both getting murdered and committing suicide. You mean after you get the money it only gets better? Exclamation mark. At some point the punishment for attempted suicide was death. Task failed successfully. Butterflies engage in a behavior called mud puddling, where they seek out puddles of moisture to drink for nutrients. If the puddle of blood is the closest thing, they will puddle in it and proceed to drink the blood for its nutrients. Butterflies are vampires confirmed. There are people that get aroused by falling down a flight of stairs. About 30% of your poop is dead bacteria. The other 70% is corn. I didn't have any corn. In medieval times, diabetes was known as the honey sickness, and to test for it a physician would have to taste your urine. In Korean it is called dongnyobyong, which translates to sweet urine disease. Diabetes mellitus, the full name of the disease, actually translates to a similar thing. Mellitus is like honey in Greek. There was a Nazi general who was hanged in the Nuremberg trials and strangled to death for 17 minutes because the noose didn't break his neck. Edit. Misspelling. I have latex gloves on while using mobile. I have latex gloves on while using mobile. Don't want to leave evidence when strangling victims for 17 minutes. Another fun execution fact: if you were getting burned to death and you were lucky, your pyre would be made of wet logs. This produces lots of smoke that will make you asphyxiate before the fire burns you alive. The sea cucumber will disembowel itself when it feels threatened. It will projectile vomit its digestive system to scare off a predator. And the ejecta is a delicacy in Japan called konawada. For the second time in one thread, your reply is both informative and literal. Sick. Moths will vibrate their genitals as a way to prevent bats from locating them. Joker, where did you go? Quote, what's the matter? Bats can't see a guy with some jiggle in his pickle. Quote, you'll pay for this. Quote, I read this in Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy's voices. There are over 200 corpses on Mount Everest and they are used as waypoints for climbers. I just watched a Bear Grylls interview for Vanity Fair where he goes over 10 survival scenes in movies or shows, and one of the last ones is a movie about a guy who dies on Everest and he gets choked up cause he climbed Everest and has seen the guy who's featured in the film. The body is perfectly preserved and he's like 20 yards from the top and everyone passes him. Everyone loves to shit on that dude for the fake stuff he did on Man vs. Wild, but nobody remembers that it's just a TV show. In reality, Bear Grylls a fucking badass. Pretty genuine dude too, from what I can tell. Probably from all the piss he drinks. Everyone loves to shit on that dude. OMG, at first glance I thought you were talking about the frozen dude. There's a condition in which people become blind, but deny their blindness. The brain creates false perceptions to fill in for the lack of sight. It's called the Anton syndrome. So can they still see, or do they only think they can see and it's just a hallucination? Meerkats are adorable creatures. They even started in a show called Meerkat Manor. But they are, by far, the most murderous species of any animal, killing more of their own species with greater frequency than any other animal. I was at a zoo a while back and they actually described them as piranhas of the desert. Mountain Dew, when first invented, was a syrup for moonshine. I kinda wanna try some Mountain Dew flavored moonshine now. Pork only became popular in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition, and thus throughout South America because during the Inquisition it was a common way people could prove they weren't Jewish or Islamic. Owl wing feathers are unique in having comb-like leading front edges that change the way air moves over the surface and allows for incredibly silent flight. This is why owls are able to fly right at you, or prey, without the telltale whoosh noise that you would hear if something like a hawk did the same. It's cheaper to print with human blood instead of printer ink. I suppose the reason we don't do this is because printer ink comes in yellow, cyan, and magenta, and human blood only comes in shades of red. Yeah, but we could print in red and white instead of black and white. No, you wouldn't be able to, because the printer would still complain that cyan was empty. A walrus can suck the skin clean off of a seal edited to say I've added a sauce in the replies. So can my ex. We only have 3% of history recorded since humans reached behavioral modernity. Christopher Mintz-Plass's mom had to be on set during the filming of his attempted sex scene in Superbad because he was only 17 at the time it was being filmed. I'll do you one better. Sophie Turner, who played Sansa Stark in GOT. Bio parents are separated. The first time her dad ever visited her on set was the day they shot the Ramsay Bolton rape scene. Woodpecker's tongue wraps all the way around his skull. Interestingly, this effectively makes a woodpecker immune to concussions. So whack 'em in the head to your heart's content. A lion's tongue is so rough it can lick your skin off. I learned this valuable piece of information from a toy in Arby's kids' meal when I was younger. On a related note, in medieval times a form of torture involved a goat licking the sole of your feet. Their tongue is rough enough that it can slowly lick off your skin. And the salt, used to encourage the goat to lick them, only make pain worse. Wow, what kind of psychopath came up with that idea the first time? A goat licking the hell out of someone until they reach insanity. It's so crazy. It just might work. Quote, "Sir, he stole bread. Okay, let us get a goat to lick his feet and turn him mad. I think maybe some sort of rehabilitation or prison tea. No, a goat.
Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.